All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we are tackling a topic that, let's be honest, is kind of a big deal for anyone aiming for those top ranks in the UPSC exams.
You got it, Indian agriculture. It's practically a guaranteed appearance in those mains questions, and hey, who knows, maybe even some sneaky prelims points, too.
You know, that's absolutely right. And to make sure you're completely prepared, we're diving deep into a recent Indian Express editorial that breaks down this complex landscape.
It's complex for sure. What's so fascinating is this constant push and pull between the advancements and, let's be honest, the stubborn challenges that just don't seem to go away.
Totally. It's like this constant dance between progress and, well, roadblocks. On the one hand, Indian agriculture is the backbone of our economy, right? Like it's a massive employer and a crucial part of who we are.
Absolutely. But then on the other hand, it's grappling with these huge issues like climate change and, the reality of shrinking farm sizes and finding ways to boost productivity.
Yeah. Let's start with the good news, right? I mean, the editorial highlights some pretty impressive wins, especially when it comes to irrigation and water efficiency.
Oh, for sure. Initiatives like the PM Krishi Sinchai Yojana are making a real difference.
Right. It's not just about expanding coverage, though, is it?
No, it's about changing the whole game.
Yeah.
Adopting these really smart technologies like drip irrigation. I mean, think about it. That helps farmers get the most out of, well, every single drop.
It's amazing how much difference that can make, isn't it?
Yeah.
And speaking of making a difference, the editorial also dives into the incredible world of, well, agritech.
Oh, yeah.
It's exploding in India, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, we've got something like 3,000 agritech startups, which is mind-blowing.
Absolutely. And it's changing everything. Think connecting farmers directly to markets through platforms like ENAM, using AI to, monitor crops, even satellite imagery.
It's like a whole new era. I mean, technology is revolutionizing agriculture as we know it, don't you think?
Oh, without a doubt, it's a game changer, especially for those smallholder farmers. I mean, they make up the majority of our agricultural workforce, right?
Right.
So for them, these tools are like, well, they are invaluable. Everything from predicting those crazy weather patterns to just getting a fair price for what they produce. It's huge.
I mean, this feels like a turning point, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just about tech either, right? There's this growing movement toward like a more sustainable, environmentally friendly way of farming.
Oh, absolutely.
The editorial highlights initiatives like the Paramparagat Krishi Vikas Yojana, which I think is focused on organic farming. And it mentions, get this, India already has millions of hectares under organic cultivation.
It's incredible, isn't it? And this shift towards sustainability, it's essential. I mean, it's not just about being eco-friendly, right? It's about ensuring the long-term health of our entire agricultural sector.
Makes sense. And it makes sense, right? Aligning with all those global goals, like the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
Exactly. And don't forget about diversification, right?
Yes. Moving beyond just the typical rice and wheat, exploring all sorts of other options like pulses, oil seeds, even things like horticulture and fisheries.
Oh, it's crucial. Diversification's all about building resilience, reducing risks.
And helping farmers explore new income opportunities, right?
Exactly. And let's be real, India's population is growing, so dietary needs are changing too. We got to keep up.
It really does feel like there's so much positive momentum right now.
There really is.
But let's be real, the editorial doesn't sugarcoat things.
No, it definitely doesn't.
What are some of those big challenges, those hurdles that are holding back productivity?
Well, I think one of the most persistent challenges is land fragmentation. Think about it. Over 86% of Indian farmers are smallholders, often working on less than 2 hectares of land. I mean, that's tiny. It makes adopting modern techniques really difficult. And forget about using machinery effectively. It's just not practical.
It's funny you say that. It's like trying to run a marathon, but your legs are tied together.
That's a great analogy.
It's no surprise productivity takes a hit, right?
Not at all. And then you've got the overdependence on the monsoon. I mean, we've made progress with irrigation, sure, but almost half of India's farmland still relies on rainfall.
Yeah, it does make us incredibly vulnerable to these crazy weather patterns, especially with, climate change making things even more unpredictable.
And it's not just about the amount of rain, right? It's about the timing, the distribution.
Yeah.
Even if we have a good monsoon, overall, if those rains are delayed or, they're all over the place, it can really mess things up.
It's like playing roulette with your livelihood, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's the whole issue of soil degradation.
Right. The editorial links that to the Green Revolution practices, heavy reliance on chemical fertilizers, pesticides.
Yeah, a lot of unintended consequences there.
Exactly. Decades of this intensive chemical use, it takes a toll.
Right.
The soil becomes less productive, and then you need even more inputs just to keep those yields up.
It's like a vicious cycle, isn't it? But it does sound like there's this growing recognition that, well, that we need a different approach, right? A more sustainable one.
Definitely. The shift toward organic farming, natural farming practices, that's a really positive sign. I mean, it's about restoring that soil health, reducing that dependence on all those chemicals.
It's about long-term thinking, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Okay, so we've got land fragmentation, monsoon dependence, and soil degradation. All pretty major challenges. Anything else the editorial highlights?
Well, one crucial thing is, let's be honest, the relatively low investment in agricultural R&D. I mean, compared to global benchmarks, India is just lagging behind.
It's like trying to win a race with, I don't know, an old beat-up car.
Right. You need constant innovation, investment just to keep up, especially in a sector as complex and dynamic as agriculture.
Absolutely. You can't stand still, can you?
Definitely not. And then there's that persistent problem, low price realization for farmers. Even when they have a bumper harvest, they often get such a small share of the final price.
It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, they only get, what, like 30–40% of what we pay at the grocery store?
Yeah, it's a huge gap. No wonder so many farmers struggle.
So what's causing this disparity?
It's a combination of things. Inefficiencies in the supply chain, lack of proper storage, transportation, and, you've got those middlemen. They often take a big chunk of the profits.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sounds like we've got a lot of work to do if we want to really improve the lives of those farmers and unlock the true potential of, well, of Indian agriculture.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much potential.
All right, so we've talked about the challenges, right? Now let's get into solutions. Remember, those of you aiming for the UPSC, it's not just about knowing the problems. It's about analyzing those potential solutions. And who knows, maybe even coming up with some of your own.
Exactly. Got to
Okay.
impress those examiners, right? The editorial we're looking at, well, it offers a pretty solid roadmap for boosting productivity and, making Indian agriculture more efficient. And you know where it starts? Tackling that elephant in the room.
Land fragmentation.
Bingo! You can't really talk about modernizing agriculture if most of our farms are, well, tiny and all over the place.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's the solution?
Well, the editorial talks about promoting land consolidation and, cooperative farming models.
So basically, pooling resources and operating on a larger scale.
Exactly. It's about making mechanization more feasible, and
Yeah.
giving those farmers more, bargaining power.
So it's about working together, right?
Mhm.
Instead of each smallholder farmer just struggling on their own.
Exactly. Strength in numbers, right? And the editorial also mentions streamlining those land leasing laws.
Ah, so even if ownership stays fragmented, a more flexible leasing system could allow for, well, for bigger operations.
Exactly. Smart thinking.
Okay, so we are addressing that fragmentation through, I guess, both cooperation and better regulations, right?
We
What about the monsoon? I mean, how do we make Indian agriculture less dependent on, well, on the whims of the weather?
Right. The editorial emphasizes expanding micro-irrigation. Remember we talked about drip and sprinkler systems?
Yeah, being way more efficient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Making every drop count.
And what about watershed development?
Oh, that's crucial too. Managing those water resources on a larger scale, right?
Yeah, conserving rainwater, recharging groundwater.
About ensuring a more reliable supply.
Yeah. I mean, even integrating existing programs, right?
Oh yeah, think about it. The PM Krishi Sinchai Yojana with like the Atal Bhujal Yojana.
The one that focuses on groundwater management. Again.
Exactly. It's a holistic approach, combining technology with smarter water management.
And those solar-powered irrigation pumps, they fit into this somewhere, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're a game changer.
Yeah?
Less reliance on diesel, good for the environment, good for the farmers' wallets.
Makes sense. Win-win situation. Now, speaking of win-win, let's talk about research and development, right? Yeah. The editorial mentions a need for more investment in agricultural R&D, particularly in areas like, I don't know, biotechnology, precision agriculture.
Oh, and AI-driven farm advisories. Don't forget those.
Right. But isn't that, primarily the government's responsibility?
Well, the government definitely plays a key role. But let's be real, the private sector has a lot to offer too.
Yeah.
We need more of those public-private partnerships.
Okay.
Driving innovation, developing those high-yielding, climate-resilient crops, and getting all those cutting-edge technologies out into the fields.
Yeah, so it's about creating that ecosystem, isn't it?
Exactly.
Where I guess scientists, entrepreneurs, and farmers are all working together.
Absolutely. And it's not just about developing the technology, right? It's about having those effective extension services.
Bridging that gap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Information, training, capacity building, those are all key.
It's like, giving a farmer a fancy new tractor, but not teaching them how to drive it.
Right. Exactly. It's not going to work.
Okay, now, the editorial also focuses on improving, farmers' financial security and market access.
Absolutely. Crucial stuff.
And I think enhancing agricultural credit and financial inclusion that's a big part of that.
Definitely. A lot of farmers struggle to get loans, which limits their ability to invest, adopt new technologies.
Right. So how do we fix that?
Well, the editorial suggests a few things, like increasing institutional credit penetration,
Okay.
streamlining access to those Keyzone credit cards, and even linking credit services with those digital platforms.
Like AgriStack?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Using tech to make things more accessible, more user-friendly.
So it's not just about throwing money at the problem, right?
No, not at all. It's about making sure those financial services actually reach those who need them.
Makes sense. And then there's the whole market side of things.
Yeah.
Revamping those APMC markets.
Oh, yeah. Those markets, they often get criticized for being, inefficient and dominated by those middlemen.
Right. Eating into the farmer's profits.
Exactly.
Remember that statistic. Farmers only get 30 to 40% of the final price.
Yeah, this is where that really hurts.
So how do we create a more, a more transparent, a fairer system?
Well, the editorial talks about strengthening E&AM.
The electronic national agriculture market.
Yes.
It's about creating a more transparent platform.
Exactly. Also, promoting those direct farm-to-market models.
Cut out those middlemen.
Exactly. Ooh. And expanding farmer-producer organizations, the FPOs.
Right. Farmers working together, negotiating better prices.
Exactly. Collective action, empowering those farmers.
Right. So reforming those existing markets, exploring new models, empowering those farmers.
It's all connected.
It is. And infrastructure. Can't forget that.
Absolutely not. Investing in those rural logistics, cold storage, warehousing, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Reduces those post-harvest losses.
Right? Yeah.
All that hard work doesn't go to waste.
Now you are getting it. And diversification.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We've got to move beyond just, rice and wheat.
Right. Pulses, oil seeds, millets, horticultural products, all that good stuff.
Right. It's about building that resilient and sustainable system.
Exactly. Good for the environment, good for the farmers, good for the consumers. Everyone wins. And this diversification, it goes hand in hand with those sustainable natural farming practices.
Right. Reducing reliance on all those chemical fertilizers, pesticides.
Exactly. And there might even be an economic benefit there, too.
Oh.
Think carbon credit markets.
Ah.
Those farmers practicing regenerative agriculture, they could actually earn extra income for their environmental contributions.
That's a really interesting idea. Okay, we have covered a lot here, right? Land consolidation, market reforms, sustainable farming practices. It really feels like a comprehensive plan to transform Indian agriculture.
It really is. And don't forget, for those of you prepping for the UPSC, it's not just about, memorizing these ideas. It's about understanding the why, the how, the strengths and weaknesses, and being able to, to really articulate your own views. Those examiners, they are looking for critical thinking.
All right, we are back for the final part of our deep dive. And, we've talked about the advancements, the challenges, even brainstormed some potential solutions. But now I think it's time to zoom out a bit.
Yeah, look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly. And for all those UPSC aspirants out there, this isn't just about acing the exam. It's about understanding why this topic matters. Like, for real, for the future of India.
Absolutely. We are talking about, it goes way beyond just farming. It's the economy, it's food security, and let's not forget the well-being of millions of people, out there in those rural communities.
Yeah, it's huge. So let's start with the economics, right? Agriculture is still a significant contributor to India's GDP, even though its share has been, shrinking over the years.
Right. And that decline, it matters.
How so?
Because when agriculture thrives, the whole economy feels it.
Right. It creates jobs, it boosts demand for all sorts of things.
Exactly. It stimulates those rural economies. But when it struggles, well, it can drag the whole country down.
Yeah, so if productivity just, stays stagnant, or if those challenges we talked about keep getting worse, it actually hurts growth.
Absolutely. You see, low productivity leads to, well, to higher food prices.
And then you have inflation, right? People can't buy as much.
Exactly. A struggling agricultural sector, it can mean fewer exports too.
Hmm.
And then we are more reliant on imports, and that weakens the economy even more.
So on the flip side, a thriving agricultural sector,
Mm.
that can actually strengthen the economy.
It's all connected, you know? Increased productivity means lower prices, more exports, and just a more, well, a more stable and resilient economy overall.
It's like a positive feedback loop, isn't it?
Exactly.
Okay, so economics, check. Let's talk about food security. I mean, having enough food for everyone, that seems pretty basic.
It is. But think about all those challenges we talked about. Climate change, you know, water scarcity, soil fertility going down, not enough investment in R&D.
It all adds up, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. All of that impacts our ability to, well, to produce enough.
Right. Especially with a growing population. So we are not just talking about, some far-off future problem, right?
This is real.
Like, if we don't address these challenges, food shortages become a real possibility.
And remember, food security isn't just about quantity, right? It's about access to safe, nutritious food that people can actually afford.
Right, so it's about quality, too, and accessibility.
Exactly. A struggling agricultural sector, well, it jeopardizes all of that. It can lead to, malnutrition, and then you have social unrest, even political instability.
Okay, that is a bit scary. So investing in, sustainable practices, better infrastructure, supporting our farmers, it's not just about economics. It's almost like a national security issue.
It is. And let's not forget about rural development. I mean, think about it. Most of our farmers, they live in those rural areas.
Right, so their livelihoods are directly linked to how well agriculture is doing.
Exactly. And we've talked about, shrinking land holdings, low farm incomes, and all that.
Right, those are some of the things contributing to poverty.
Absolutely. And it just makes development so much harder.
It seems like, well, like everything is connected, doesn't it?
It is.
I mean, when agriculture is doing well, you have economic growth, food security, rural development, it all just kind of flourishes. But when it's struggling, it's the opposite. The economy suffers, food security is threatened, rural poverty continues.
It's a powerful reminder, the choices we make today, the policies, the investments, the technology, they'll determine the future of, well, not just agriculture, but in a way, of India itself.
Yeah, no pressure. Right. Okay, future civil servants, we've gone deep, haven't we? Hopefully you've gotten a better understanding of just how complex this whole issue is.
It is complex, for sure. But the key takeaway here, remember, this isn't just about memorizing facts.
Right, it's about using those critical thinking skills.
Exactly. Analyzing those complex issues, understanding different perspectives, and being able to, to really articulate your own informed views.
Right, because, you are going to be the ones shaping policies.
Yeah.
Policies that impact millions of people.
Exactly. So engage with these topics, think critically, be the change you want to see.
This deep dive was based on a recent Indian Express editorial, and I think it's worth checking out. So for all of you listening, make sure you read the full article, really dig deep into this crucial topic.
And don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave us a comment below. Tell us what you think.
We'd love to hear your perspectives. So until next time, happy studying and best of luck with those UPSC exams. You got this.